If there's mayonnaise-like stuff on it, that spells trouble.
SmarterMotoring.com from Alliance and Leicester.
This week, Pulling Power names the winner in the Battle of the Super Minis with first drives of the new Seat Ibiza and Citroen's Radical C3. We're also on the track with Jag's test drivers, and Gal Porter finds out why nice girls love a Ducati. This is the new Seat Ibiza, and so new is this car, we've had to come to this top secret Seat facility on the outskirts of Barcelona to grab one of the very first Ibizas to roll off the production line. This is going to be the top of the range version of the Ibiza when it goes on sale in April, and it's a diesel. But with 130 horsepower under the bonnet, it's no slouch. 0 to 60 in less than 10 seconds, combined with a very respectable 55 mpg. Should be a winning formula, but here's the sting. Seat expect you to pay a whopping £13,500 for the privilege of owning this car. OK, you'll be able to buy a 1.2 litre base petrol model for around £8,500, but this one's going to have to be very, very special indeed to justify that huge price tag. This engine is one of the sweetest diesel units I think I've ever driven. There is tons and tons of available power on tap. This is, we must stress, a Volkswagen engine because Seat is part of the Volkswagen group, and it's superb. We rated the Fiesta's handling earlier in the series, but this is also up there with the best, and there's no doubt about it, the Ibiza's got a prettier face. I think it's no coincidence that the former boss of BMW is now ultimately the boss of Seat, and if I may say so, it looks like a mini BMW at the front. And if this doesn't sound too pretentious, it does have that kind of Mediterranean feel to it that they keep banging on about, doesn't it? Only one thing that spoils it as far as I'm concerned, and that's that atrocious Seat badge. I keep telling them they've got to redesign that. Or from the rear end, I quite like this actually. It's all cosmetic, this silly spoiler, although there is this brake light in there which is quite cleverly designed and quite discreet, but I think that works well. The lights in themselves, look at them, I mean they're becoming almost design features on some cars, particularly this one. Ooh, everywhere I go I see that horrible badge. I do not like it, but look, it's quite clever in that it hides the lock underneath. Perfectly adequate boot on the Ibiza. I think the overall impression that I get with this car, and maybe it's just me, but when I look at it, I don't see a super mini, I see a medium-sized family car. It's almost an optical illusion, and that's very, very clever. In fact, in design terms, that's cheating. But don't be fooled, bigger it might be, but if your family consists of 2 adults and 2 big kids, it'll be tight. The high waistline and narrow glass may give a sporty appearance, but combined with the dark interior, it can feel claustrophobic. The heating and ventilation switches down here, they're nice because they're good old-fashioned dials, and I love those. But I've got to say, it's a bit low down. It's actually below knee level. It needs to be sort of up into that space there. Like the holiday island it's named after, the Ibiza is about 3 Fs. Fast, fun and flair. If only I could say it was as cheap. Well, you know, it's still too early to say whether this is the best new Super Mini on the market, because there's a very, very important, even newer model to come. We're heading north now to France. Throughout this series, we've been driving the latest batch of new Super Minis. In show 1, we brought you the very first test of the new Ford Fiesta, and I have to say, it might have been Britain's best-loved car in the past, but I reckon it's living on borrowed time these days. The ride and handling may be terrific, but almost everything about this car is just, well, underwhelming. Especially when you compare it with the new Honda Jazz. When I drove this one a couple of weeks ago, I was knocked out by the clever interior, amazingly quiet engine, and the long list of standard features, all for under £9,000. We've also driven the new Polo, which may have set the benchmark in the past, but it's now left trailing, even by its VW engineered sister, the new Ibiza. So just one left. What is it? Well, does it remind you perhaps of the old Citroen 2CV? It does me, that's for sure. And there's a reason for that, because what you're looking at there is its spiritual successor. Yes, this is the Citroën C3. Only the French could come up with a design like this. They're simply moving in the opposite direction to everybody else. But you know what? C3's styling works. In fact, I'd go as far as saying that this is the best looking small car around. And it's practical too. It's quite a large car physically, much larger than Super Minis have traditionally been, but just a doddle to drive around town, really. If you can't handle a car like this, you shouldn't be on the road, because it's just very, very easy. Nice light steering, perfect seating position. You could be, what, 6'4", 6'5", and drive this car without any headroom problems. Everything's in the right place, does everything it says on the box. What more can you say? Well, this is what you can say. How's the turning circle? Oh, that's very good too. That is very good. The C3 rides quite well, as you'd expect of a Citroën, but it has one surprising weakness. You know how the original 2CV was designed to cross a bumpy field carrying a basket of eggs? Well, don't try that in this car. All no misses. Citroën want this car to be a big hit with families, and there's plenty of clever touches. For example, child locks that can be activated from the dashboard, drinks trays for the back seats, 2 glove boxes for your odds and ends, fold-down dividers in the boot to stop your shopping rolling around, all topped off with some really neat little design features. Engines for UK buyers will start with a 1.4 petrol going up to a 1.6. But this 1.4 diesel is the one to go for, believe me. In theory, 75 mpg is possible, but in real-world conditions, 50 plus should be within your reach. Interesting that, I just floored that accelerator, and it's still pulling, plenty of torque there. But speed isn't everything. Stopping is kind of important too. Citroën have come up with something here that's, well, remarkably simple, and frankly, I'm amazed nobody's thought of it before. Tooling down the road, you need to do an emergency stop, and what happens once you've done that emergency stop is, in theory at least, your hazard warning lights come on. Do they? I'm about to find out. Quick look into the mirror. Nothing there, safe to do it. The hazard lights have come on. And as I pull away, the car senses that and automatically switches those lights off again. Very, very simple, very, very clever. The onboard gadget of the year. So after driving thousands of miles to get first drives of all these new Super Minis, it's time for the verdict. Will it be the C3? Well, first the easy bit. The cars that are definitely not the winners in this group test, and they have to be the Volkswagen Polo and Ford Fiesta in no particular order. The reason for that is they're just not adventurous enough. They haven't moved forward. They haven't kept up with the competition. Seat, on the other hand, done very well with their new Ibiza, and you know, the only thing that really keeps it away from the top slot is the fact that they're talking about a lot of money for that car, particularly in the spec that we drove. Now that leaves us with 2 cars, the Honda Jazz and the Citroën C3. We were hoping that Citroën would come in with this car at less than £9,000, substantially less, 8,500. They said absolutely not, minimum 9 grand for the lowest spec C3. And for that reason, I think the Jazz has to come out in the number 1 slot. But there's a condition attached. If you can get this car from your local friendly Citroën dealer with, say, a £500, £1,000 discount, cashback, call it what you like, this is the winner too. With either of these cars, you just can't go wrong.
Do you like driving cars? Do you like taking cars to their limits? Do you think you could be a test driver? If you do, check out this place, the Motor Industry Research Association. It's here at this top-secret test track in the Midlands that test drivers working for the major car manufacturers put their latest models through their paces. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Mike Cross, Jaguar's chief test driver, the man who gives Jaguars their unique driving feel.
Despite the popular image of lots of extreme testing at high speed, a lot of the job is about evaluating small changes to cars at the sort of speed customers drive at. We do evaluate the car at high speed and in extreme conditions, but that's to ensure the car is safe if a customer encounters something on the road they don't expect.
A good example of a test driver's challenge was the Jaguar X-Type. The X-Type had to provide all the traditional virtues of high-speed cosseted motoring, but it also had to perform like a real sporting Jaguar should. This car was incredibly important to Jaguar because it represented for the first time competition in the compact saloon sector with BMW and Mercedes. They'd invested £300 million and they just had to get it right. Just to see if the X-Type lived up to my expectations, I thought I'd take it for a little spin.
X-Type was a challenge because the car had to have a clear Jaguar feel, but it was smaller and it was four-wheel drive. We wanted the car to steer as a rear-wheel drive car, so we paid a lot of attention to the steering and the suspension to give that feel.
Try as I could to unsettle this car, it was so well balanced that it soon gets itself back into shape, even when you do this. Now that the X-Type has hit the streets, Mike has a new and very special workplace, the Jaguar XKR Evolution. This car is a technological testbed for Jaguar. It's very, very powerful. I mean, it's got a lot more acceleration, it feels, than the standard XKR. How powerful is it?
It's about 450 horsepower.
Right.
And unlike the standard XKR, it has a manual transmission as well. So it's a lot of fun to drive.
This prototype will do 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds and will touch 180 miles an hour.
What a car needs to do on here when we're sliding it as we are, it needs to come back from the skid in an easy and progressive manner. We do a lot of vehicle evaluation in wet conditions, potentially when a car's going to catch somebody out.
Right.
Like that.
That's great.
I enjoy this job. The best part about it is being able to give the car a character. The downside is it can be very repetitive and often frustrating. 2 steps forward and 1 step back quite often.
Remember, test driving is a very serious and scientific process. It requires a lot of skill and it can also be stressful. But what other job in the world are you encouraged to have the time of your life?
Coming up, Gal Porter finds out why nice girls love a Ducati.
All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts.
There are 7 ages of man, or so Shakespeare would have us believe. From birth right the way through to death. Along the way you'll probably find a partner, settle down. Is it then time to give away the big boys' toys and go for something more sensible? Not necessarily. Ah, the good old MPV, built with the emphasis on family practicality and plenty of room for the kids. Normally they're about as exciting to drive as a tractor. These 3, however, have got other ideas. Now, I'm not too sure that performance and family sit all that well together, but Vauxhall, Honda and Mazda hope they've found a new market niche for their high-performance people carriers. Well, this is the first of the offerings. It's the Mazda. It's the cheapest of the 3, and I have to say, it feels it too. You normally get what you pay for in this kind of marketplace. The basic model is just under 13 grand. This souped-up GTI version is nearer 16. This car, frankly, is a bit uninvolving and a bit dull. It does everything it does reasonably well. It's not particularly fast. It's not particularly exciting to drive. It has got a bit more go in it, but not that much more go. The Honda Stream is just £1,500 more than the Premacy. Sadly, they don't seem to have spent any of that extra cash on its looks.
The Honda is the most boring and unsporty looking of the three. It's very functional, no frills or extras, clean lines, but nothing fancy at all.
A bit of an ugly duckling it may be, but these boring-looking seats are so comfortable they could be stuffed with feathers.
To drive this thing, it is certainly the most involving, a really pokey VTEC engine that really wants to rev up to about 7,000 RPM, no problem at all. The thing I really like is this gear shift mounted on the dashboard here. For a quick shift like that, it does create a very sporty feel.
The Zafira is the most expensive with a whacking £20,000 price tag. But without doubt, it's the best appointed. Plush leather Recaro seats and well laid out dash.
Going up through the short shift gearbox is quite a sporty experience, there's no doubt about that. It's the fastest of the three, but the engine isn't quite as involving to drive as the Honda. Nevertheless, in terms of plushness, this is the one for me.
If you're looking to stuff your MPV full of kids, the Vauxhall Zafira and Honda Stream seats 7. The Mazda only manages 5. But in the case of the Honda, I reckon one of those seats is more like an armrest.
In fact, it is an armrest.
If you need the extra luggage space, the back row in the Zafira goes flatter than an MFI wardrobe pack, and what you gain in seats, the Vauxhall Zafira and Honda Stream leave less space to stow the luggage. With lots of performance and the family on board, you'll want to know how they'll cope with the corners.
Well, the Stream's much vaunted aerodynamics make it a good car in a straight line, but it's very good on the twisty stuff as well, and that perky little engine pushes you along the whole time. In fact, this is definitely the most like a car of all three of them. It's only really when you look in the rearview mirror, you see 7 seats, that you realise you're driving an MPV. Well, the Mazda does a few things better than the Honda and the Vauxhall, but in terms of the driving experience, it just isn't there with the other two. It doesn't get into the corners as nicely. It doesn't steer as well. And apart from the brakes, it's just an awful lot less involving a vehicle. Like the Honda, the Zafira is very good on the tight, twisty stuff. Any kind of loose surfaces, bumps, very, very good indeed. It's got a fantastic traction control system, which any hint of wheel spin controls it very nicely. Yes, you have performance, but you don't want it at the price of safety.
So who's going to buy this strange marriage twixt GTI and people carrier? Well, maybe mummy and daddy Max Power, still in their mid-20s, had the kids young, and want something small, easy to park, but with a bit of performance.
Normally, I'm really positive about new vehicle ideas, but it seems to me that an MPV is an MPV, and a performance car is something altogether different. Rather than shelling out 20 grand on one of these, why not buy the basic entry-level model Zafira for 14 grand, and then let the sportsman in you take the 6 grand change and buy one of these.
Wide tyres, upswept exhausts, powerful engines, and red paint. There's something incredibly macho about Italian motorbikes.
Arrive at a race circuit on Motorcycle Day and you can almost taste the testosterone in the air. But oddly enough today there's a much sweeter smell around. It's not so much horsepower as girl power.
Pulling Power has sent me to Brands Hatch in Kent for a track day with a difference. Everyone taking part is female. The whole day's been organised by Ducati in an attempt to encourage more women onto big bikes. The response has been overwhelming.
Absolutely phenomenal. They're so keen. It's emails, letters, cards, phone calls. When's the next event? When can we come? So they're all really enthusiastic about doing this.
After their initial briefing, the ladies are allowed out on the track. To start with, they've got to follow an instructor because they've got to get used to the lines of the track, and then they've got a chance to build up some speed. do you think benefits women on a day like today?
I think a lot of track days are predominantly male.
Yeah.
There's a lot of testosterone floating around.
Too much.
Too much sometimes, yeah. And it is quite threatening for women.
Yeah.
A lot of times their ego is larger than their talent. And
oh, really?
They come a cropper.
It gives them a lot more confidence. They actually learn how to ride their bike properly. You can't ride like this on an open road, on a public highway. So here it gives them the opportunity to know how fast their bike will go, and it's just a really great day.
Once you get over the initial getting here and getting out there, you forget all about your nerves and, yeah.
And is it much easier having a women-only day?
Yeah, it is, yeah, for your first few.
So the ladies are having a great time, but what's it like for the men who have to teach them?
It's generally a lot easier. The women tend to be more open-minded and don't bring their egos along. Already today, myself and my other instructors have been so busy with ladies coming up asking for help.
Are you allowed on the track when they're out on the track today, or are you going to stay off?
No, they do allow me out occasionally.
you out?
Yes, I have to go out and keep an eye on them, unfortunately, but it's a tough job that someone's got to do it.
Now, it goes without saying that we female bikers are a lot safer than our male counterparts. But if you do put 20 bikes onto a track, you've got to expect the odd shunt.
I was going quite well on the 748R, and it's really, really nice to ride. And following a lady into Paddock Hill Bend, and I think she must have seen me in the rear view or something. I moved out of the way, but actually moved into my way.
All right.
So I had nowhere to go.
That's the thing about women racers, trying to be too polite to each other.
Exactly.
And then you just came off. Because you lay down there for a bit and I was a bit worried.
I was swearing my head off, actually.
Were you? But was it your bike?
No. No, it wasn't. And I'm very sorry, Ducati.
Oh, she won't do it again.
I won't.
Hoy's crash was definitely the exception rather than the rule, and minor spills aside, everyone had a great day out.
So my advice to all you women out there is get on your bikes, get on the track, and go out and enjoy a day of real pulling power.
That's it for this series, but we're back in the summer with a special run of Pulling Power documentaries tracing the history of some of Britain's most famous motoring names. You can also catch us live at the British Sports Car Show in May at Birmingham's NEC, where we unveil some of the hottest new sports cars around. More of that on our website, where you can find Pricing Power, a new service where we help find you the best discount available on any new car. Meanwhile, we'll be back later in the year with a brand new series. See you then.
Just a reminder that at 7:30 tomorrow night, The Angry Years, an investigation into the terrorist group of the 70s, the Angry Brigade. Next tonight, the news, then it's football, beginning with the UEFA Champions League Weekly.